if we consider thinking and feeling as two sources of information, then we understand, or we begin to understand, the importance of gaining information from both sources. I know that sounds a little redundant, but the fact is that most of us spend most of our time in our head thinking and knowing what we think, and often saying, I feel, at the beginning of a sentence, only to find out we're still talking about what we're thinking. Feeling is having the emotional, physiological experience within your body, not getting acted out or discharged into the external world, but having an internal experience somewhere between your neck and your feet. To be able to have that emotional experience means leaving your head and reassuring yourself that you and your thoughts will be there when you get back. So, have you all ever noticed how often you start a sentence with, I feel? Right? I feel really great coming to Pace University today. Where's the feeling? Great. Great's not a feeling. Right? Or how about people who say, I feel really bad, or I feel like, you know what, today. Are these feelings? No. Okay. So, we have two sources of information, as I've said before, what we know in our head and what we have in our guts. If I tell you, I came up to you and I said, I'm going to bump you in the head, and then I'm going to push you over, and then I'm going to scream at you, what do you think you'd feel?
Mad.
Mad, yeah, you bet. Right? What's very interesting, sometimes I present this, and it's in the context of doing some deep work, and then you ask the person what they're feeling, and they're not mad at all. There's something else. Sometimes feeling pain, sometimes feeling sadness. So what you think you're going to feel and what you actually feel will be very different. Everybody with me on this one? Okay, good. So, what I'm going to ask you now is how many people know what the feelings are? Right? Does anybody know how many feelings there are? Or do you guys, have you had any background at all about feelings? Oh my God. Words cut out for me, isn't it? Okay. Depending on what theorist you're talking about, and we call people who deal with theories of feelings affect theorists, what the affect is. Okay? And somebody want to start to guess what the feelings are. Now, depending on the theorist, there's either 8 or 10 or 12 primary feelings. You know, like you have primary colors? Everybody know what the primary colors are? Okay.
Red,
like what?
Red,
Yellow, red, yeah, blue, what else?
Teal.
Yeah, right, okay. So, there are primary feelings. So let's take a shot at what the primary feelings are. Anybody want to just shout out feelings?
Sad.
Happy, sad,
Angry.
Frustrated is a state. Who said frustrated? Frustrated can be, you can be frustrated in terms of tension. You could be frustrated in terms of anxiety. You could be frustrated in terms of irritation. So there's many feelings with frustrated. So that would be like a combo of feelings. But we're doing pretty well here. Come on, let's get some more. Give me another one.
Surprise, maybe? Surprise?
Surprise, definitely. Yeah. Okay. Come on. Scared. Fear. Yes. We've got about 5 here. Let's shoot for another 5.
Confused?
Confused, no. Confused is a whole other thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Surprise?
Surprise, somebody said.
Surprise.
Depressed is a state. It's not a feeling. You could have lots of feelings when you're depressed. Okay? Come on. Some other feelings?
Annoyed?
Irritated, yes, which would go under angry. You know, it'd be mildly angry is annoyed. Okay?
Lonely?
No, lonely is a state. Good guess. Okay? How do you feel in a state of loneliness?
Isn't that it?
Hmm?
Isn't that
These
it?
are the 5 main ones.
Is that it? No, I'm going to give you more.
Because of
Wait a second, here we go. If I can find where the heck I put it. Okay. All right, here we go. Happiness, sadness. Anybody want to write these down? Fear, anger, surprise. Okay, nobody got this one. How about disgust? All right. I'm going to give you a biggie. Curiosity. All right. What was that?
I'm sorry, I'm shutting it off.
Okay, disappointment. Disappointment is a real biggie. All of us will turn ourselves inside out not to feel disappointed. So disappointment's a real biggie. Contempt. Grief and loss. Jealousy. The biggie. Notice you guys left out most of the negative feelings. Envy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Now, those are the primary feelings, and each of those feelings has its own facial expression and its own neurophysiology. What was it like for you? What did people notice?
It was weird. Oh my god, I
It was
can't
weird.
look at
Okay.
someone's eyes
Now-
if I have nothing to say to them.
One thing, I'm going to be very tough with all of you for the rest of the session. I'm not going to let you get away with it. Weird, good, bad. Okay? We're learning to give feelings names. What do you mean by weird?
I didn't have any feelings. Like I'm looking into, I couldn't look into someone's eyes if I have nothing to, if I'm not talking to them, I'm not communicating. I can't look into your eyes, you know. I'm not comfortable.
I'm not buying comfortable. So you felt, what did you feel inside?
No feelings.
No feelings at all. Anybody else have, what's your name, I'm sorry?
Rebecca.
Rebecca, anybody else have the same experience as Rebecca?
I was just focusing on the task at hand. Like, I guess you guys are a class, and I'm in this other class. I don't know anyone, and I'm just like, I have to look at this girl, and I never met her. Like, I don't even know who she is. And I'm just like focusing on like, don't look away, don't look away. The second time it was easier. It was like you had like some thoughts or feelings.
Okay, and what were your thoughts and feelings?
Since you can't like focus eye contact on people at the same time, you have to switch back and forth, and sometimes they're looking at you, and sometimes they're looking at the other person. So when all of a sudden they like look at you, it's like, what are like they turn to look at you right in the eye, and you like catch each other at eye contact. You're like, what are they thinking? You start to be like, what's going on in their head?
And what were you feeling?
I don't know. I would say confusion, but you said that's not what I meant.
No, well, confusion is getting
Curiosity.
curiosity. Okay, so how many people are in Rebecca's boat and didn't have any feelings at all? Okay, so you didn't have any feelings either. So can you make eye contact with Rebecca, and your name is?
Allah.
Allah? Allah, can you and Rebecca talk about what it was like to have eye contact without any feeling? What was it like for you? Tell Rebecca, and Rebecca, I want you to stay connected to Allah.
Okay, I felt nothing. I didn't know what to feel. Nothing to feel.
There is nothing to feel. I have nothing to say to you, so I don't know. Look into your eyes, okay? There's no feelings there for me.
So neither of you had an emotional experience in the eye contact exercises. Okay, and your name is?
Alicia.
Alicia?
Well, I wasn't with the two-person. I didn't really feel anything. I was just my brain, like all of its energy was like just stare at this person, just look
Okay.
at them.
And you had some curiosity.
Well, when we were in the triad, we were in three.
More than the
I
couple.
don't really think. I think I agree with Spencer. Like I didn't really have a feeling.
So now, are you both talking about in the couple rather than in the triangle? That you had no feeling? Or in both exercises?
Both exercises.
Both exercises. Okay, how about anybody connecting with Alicia and had some curiosity? Do you want to share your experience together?
I get it. It was just like I was
I
curious.
need you to have eye contact with Alicia. What's your name?
Biana.
Biani?
Biana.
Biana. Okay.
I just I was curious of like you know, you look at somebody and you just like think, I know what I'm thinking at this moment. What are they thinking? Like what's going through your head? What do they see maybe that I don't see? Like it's I don't know.
So you had a lot of questions about the other person.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have that experience? Yes?
Yeah, especially
All right, now, what I'm going to do is if you have a similar experience to somebody else, you have to make contact with them. Because if you make contact with me, you're not going to get anything back. Go to where you can get something instead of where you can't get something. What I'm going to do is do the teaching as we move along here. Always go to the person you can get something from. If you come to me as a leader, you're not going to get anything. So you have a similar experience, you have a similar experience. You all connect.
Well, I was just going to agree a little bit with Biana because I felt curiosity, but at the same time a little self-conscious because when someone's looking at you, you kind of wonder what are they looking at, you know, how are they perceiving me, things like that. So I think that went along with.
Did you enjoy the curiosity?
To an extent.
And your name is?
Michelle.
Michelle, okay, and
I'm Joan. I think I felt like for me it's a natural reaction. Like if I'm looking at someone and then they look back at me, I'll immediately look away. And to stay looking at someone when they look back at you, I was curious as to how they felt about that. I guess it was a self-conscious feeling too.
anybody else similar experience to this group? Anybody? You want to make contact over here? Your name is?
Chris.
Russ?
Chris.
Chris, you want to make contact here and talk about your experience?
It's pretty much the same thing that the four of them felt. Just like I felt like I was being read like up and down as if it was like being judged and everything. And like at 2 points during it, she like she laughed a little bit. So now I was wondering like, oh, you know, what's she thinking now? What did I do? But at that point, it was a little self-conscious, but the curiosity was still there. Like, what is she thinking? Am I being read right now? Is she judging? And that's what I felt.
And any response from this mini group back to Chris?
I don't think I felt so much self-conscious. I was just really curious because, I don't know, you're looking at someone you don't know. You're just, I guess you want to know more about them. Some stranger.
Alright, I don't think I felt self-conscious either. Like, I just felt, like, I just wanted to know everything that was going through the person's head, that's it. Like, I just wanted to
You
know.
have to make eye contact. It's kind of like looking.
Like, it's just interesting if they feel the same way that I do about things, or if they're looking at the same thing as I am, or if just looking at each other gives us the same feeling.
I think I felt a little trapped, a little bit, only because when I was looking at her, I would just keep on reminding myself of my mother telling me, you know, don't stare at anybody, that's rude or this, and here you are telling us to stare at each other, and I have to throw that out the window, and I'm like, okay, so I'll stare at somebody.
That is such a perfect example of the super ego defense. The little policeman says in your head, it is wrong to look at somebody else, and then
But
you've
you have
got
to
to
do
grapple
it.
with
You
that.
gotta do
because
it.
I've given you another set of instructions.
Yeah.
Right? And
So at the
anybody
same
else
point,
have that battle?
it's like I have to throw that out the window and listen to you because you're the teacher now. But this is what I've been taught all my life, like you don't stare at anybody, so I'm like, okay, you know,
Right.
and I felt really trapped.
Anybody else feel trapped?
No, actually, I had something different than hers.
Uh-huh.
What my mother always taught me is that you always look at a person in the eye.
Uh-huh.
So, it was I don't know. I was just looking at her, I'm like, because that's what ever since I was a little child, I was always taught that that it's respectful when you look at somebody while you speak to them in the eyes.
Right.
It was something different than hers, but it was my mother telling me that.
Okay, and your name is?
Patricia.
Patricia. Anybody else have Patricia's experience? And
Jennifer.
anybody else have Jennifer's experience?
Abigail.
Abigail.
Yeah, ever since I started working, there's a lot of emphasis on you have to have very good eye contact with whoever you're speaking with.
Now, who are you speaking with?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm speaking with Patricia.
Okay.
And Jennifer. Yeah, so
We have two different groups here.
I'm sorry, Patricia. I'm
have-
speaking with Patricia.
Okay, where eye contact's important
Eye contact.
and
is
eye
very-
contact is impolite.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
So I felt maybe a little fear because I didn't want to stare too much, but I could do it, but I didn't want to stare too much because I felt bad. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
I felt, by the way, I
Yeah.
felt anxious. Like every time she looked away, I'm like, wait, I gotta get her attention back.
Yeah.
What am I not doing? So I pretend I'm picking my nose so she could look back at me.
Uh-huh.
So I felt like even when we were doing the triangle, I was much more calm. I went like that to them to show them I was sweating, like when I was with Jen. My
Uh-huh.
hands were sweating, and I was like, Jen, what are you here?
Anybody else feel anxious or sweaty? Sweaty palms? Yes. Okay, your name is?
No. Rosa?
Rosa, the
Yeah,
one
I was
connect
feeling
there?
anxious too. Like when I was with him, I'm like, oh my
What do I do now?
I was really anxious then. But when I was with the triangle, it was easier.
Yeah, it was a lot
easier. It's less time. You can switch.
You can switch back and forth. Did anybody, people found the triangle easier than the
Yeah, I
couple?
found it easier.
Okay, can we get some experience on that? It sounds like there's a bigger group now of people who say the triangle was more comfortable than the coupling. So can I see hands on who thought the triangle was easier? Okay, so I would like you all, who have just raised your hands, to make contact with each other and talk about what your experience in the triangle was like. What was there about it that it was easier for you?
You didn't have to focus on people for that long. You could switch back and forth.
Okay, so you didn't have to focus. What else?
What
Keep eye contact. Does everybody know who everybody is in this group? Raise your hands again. All the people have found the triangle easier. Maybe you better keep your hands up so everybody in this group can make contact. And let's just hear from everybody, okay? Even if somebody's already said what you said, say it anyhow. So, I'm sorry, who is? There you are.
My name is Trista. I noticed in my group particularly that if you looked away from somebody else who was like looking at you, their eyes darted to the other person, so it was almost kind of an escape that you didn't have to have that eye contact. You could break it because you could just turn around and look at the other person. And that's my personal experience with the people group, and that's why I think it was easier because you didn't necessarily have to concentrate on looking at one person.
A lot of people shaking their head, which is like, I'm waving at you, you're doing a nice job. How about bring yourselves in?
I felt the same way. It was easier because you didn't have to concentrate on one person for that whole amount of time. Like, if you felt uncomfortable, you felt like you were going to laugh in that moment, you could turn away to the other person, at least start over, and or focus on eye contact again. And you had that moment to escape instead of just for 2 minutes on one person.
Okay, how about other people?
Like personally for me, my experience, when it was 3, I felt more calm.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel like I wasn't making so many goofy eye expressions because I had like 2 people staring at me, then I stared at her, and then so I felt like I didn't have to drag their attention to me as much. Like I already had it. If not, they would look at somebody else, and then I would look at that person. So I felt more calm.
Mm-hmm. How about other people? Yes.
I actually felt a little more comfortable because I felt obligated to look at both of them, almost as if it was a meeting. So when you have a meeting, you have to, keep eye contact with everyone. Like you said, in business, you have to keep showing eye contact. I felt more comfortable because I felt it was more of a meeting type like a conference, so I just kept it on both, switched back and forth. It was easy if they didn't look at me, so I look at them, and they look back, I look the other way, you know? So.
Okay, how about people over here? There was some hands.
Well, when we first looked just individually at one person, I felt like my feeling with both of the groups was I was happy because it was doing something weird, something I haven't experienced yet, and it was hard not to smile and sometimes giggle or whatever. But I knew going into the group with group of
Triangle.
triangle that it would be much easier because, like they've been saying, you could focus your attention on someone. I knew if someone was going to focus on me, I could turn my head and focus on the other person. So.
Okay. Anybody else? Were you in that group?
It was easier because, like everybody else said, you could sort of turn away your attention and focus on somebody else.
So you had more mobility, get out of a tight spot if it got too heavy. Yes.
I think it was also easier because we all know each other, so it's like we feel more comfortable than being like if you put me in a group with like 2 other people. I don't even with 5 other people, and you tell me to look at them. I wouldn't feel feel comfortable as when I was with those 2 because I know them. I got to know them personally. Like we all got to know each other, so I think that's what made it more comfortable. But I think if we were just a group of like other people and you just told us, okay, look at each other, I don't think we would feel that comfortable.
Yeah, Joel, just so you know, one of the things we've really stressed this semester is getting to know one another rather than just that student over there or what she said.
Great.
We've really focused on names and getting to share values.
Very nice. Good. Okay. Well, we'll continue that today. All right. Anybody else have experience they want to bring in about the exercise? So we're kind of winding down here. Okay, great. Did anybody notice that when you work with somebody else who has a similar feeling, that there's a difference than working alone in this group? Anybody notice that?
What do you mean?
You have somebody who's having the same feeling, the same reaction you are, and I say, well, try to talk to each other if you're having the same reaction. Anybody notice that? When I brought people in, I said, well, what was that like? What made the triangle easier? And there were a bunch of people who said, oh, yeah. Right? Did that feel more comfortable when you had people who were agreeing with you than just talking up by yourself? Okay, so that is a very important dynamic in this group process, where you are working with other people instead of working by yourself. It's much more comfortable and you feel more understood, and if you have other people working on the same experience you are, it gives you permission to take stuff deeper than if you were just doing it by yourself. So that's something I would like you to notice about this kind of work, right? And then, did anybody feel that they were starting to make distinctions between what they were thinking about, what was going on, and what they were experiencing? Did anybody have any?
I have a question.
Yeah.
As far as, like, don't you think most people would feel that it would be easier to do that staring exercise with 3 people or more people rather than just one? And my comment was, when I was looking at her, just from her facial expressions, I kind of was guessing what she was feeling. And like when we spoke about it, I think it was similar to what I was thinking. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
So certainly in this group today, people are finding the triangle easier than the couple.
Wouldn't most of people find?
Sometimes interestingly, and I think it probably depends on age groups and maybe if people are in the shrink world or not in the shrink world. Some people prefer couples actually as easier. So it's very interesting, the results. Yeah.
That's true, because when I was in junior high school, like elementary, I used to have like staring contests with my friends. So if someone would have come in and told us to do that, we would have had such a fun time with it. We could have done it for like 5 minutes if we had to. But right now it's a little more tense. And,
you don't know what to expect, and it's
and as far as like feelings go, like I kept on moving like my fingers and like my hands were getting like clammy too, but my face was like, I don't know, I was like, okay, I gotta do it, but like, I felt like I was dancing on a chair or something.
In some ways, I think I actually found the triangle a little harder, just because when it was just two people, you told us exactly what we had to do, and it wasn't our fault that we were doing it because we had to. But in the triangle, we had to decide who to look at and how long to look at them. And a lot of the blame was more like on us of who we looked at and stuff.
Yeah, so you had more mobility in doing your own thing. You asked me a second part to that question. We can get back to you.
Well, the question about...
For this most people say triangles, and then you had some other question.
I just said that I could tell by looking at the person that I was looking at. I was guessing what they were feeling.
So you're having mind reads.
That means.
Right. We'll talk about it in a bit.
But I wanted to know if that was similar for the rest of the class.
Okay. Anybody else find themselves mind reading what was going on in the other person or the other people? Okay. What was that like? What was that like to have mind read about what the other person is? What's going on in the other person?
It was so awkward that there was no communication that from the facial expressions I was trying to guess because I was so curious about what they were feeling. So I would try to say, all right, she's not looking at me now, so she's really uncomfortable, or she's about to laugh, and just trying to get some sort of communication because that's the only way we are able to communicate in this demonstration. So I was just trying to read it through her facial expressions.
It's part of my personality, but when someone stares at me and looks at me, I get anxious because I wonder what the person's thinking about me. What have I done? And that, I mean, Joel knows me well. That comes from a lifetime of training with a kind of a dysfunctional family. But when I got looked at, it was because something was wrong. And when Rebecca was looking at me, Becky was looking at me, I kind of wondered, what had I done?
So there was a lot of mind reading that went on.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of us spend a lot of time mind reading all the time. And mind reading is great if you check out your mind read with the other person. If you just sit there with your mind read and you don't check it out, then you're sitting there